Hello everyone, we are on the back rooftop deck today and I'm going to create this year's dahlia border all in grow bags. I did this for the first time last year. In fact, I had a mix of both dahlias and zinnias. My zinnias got powdery mildew very early last season and basically all died probably early September, if not late August. So this year, because my dahlias tend to stay around even through Thanksgiving, I'm just gonna do all dinner plate dahlias. And I have a combination of dahlias from last year that overwintered in our garage and dahlias that I bought this year, even though I really didn't need to get more dahlias. So this border goes behind my couch out here, and it's one of my favorite things. So when I first started gardening out here, I planted things very low to the ground, but then the couch hid them so you couldn't see them. So then I thought about dinner plate dahlias and giant zinnias that would get maybe between 4 to 5-ish feet tall. And it was just so pretty, and I just loved seeing the bright, colorful flowers of the dahlias behind the couch. So I'm very, very excited to do this again. Now, to make the border, I need 3 things other than dahlias. First, I have this plant lift. This keeps the grow bags about 1 inch off the ground so that the grow bags aren't sitting directly on the wood, and the moisture from the wet soil when I either water or it rains isn't going to damage the wood deck. And this is just made of plastic. So there's going to be 1 under each grow bag. The grow bags I use are 7-gallon. I do 1 7-gallon for a dinner plate size dahlia. I've done 5 in the past, but it just seemed to dry out too quickly. This seems like a good fit. And I chose these from Bootstrap Farmer because they were brown. And the brown blends in with the brick wall that these are sitting in front of. So that's the main reason I chose it. But also I do think this is one of the better quality grow bags I've had. The handles don't fall off, which I've had grow bags in the past where the handles fell off during the first season. They are sewn on very well. And I feel like the quality of the bag material just also feels a little bit better than some of the grow bags I've done in the past. So this just happens to fit perfectly on top of that. Was not planned, just a very happy accident. Then the third item is a support cage. This is 19 inches. I have so many of these. I basically use these on anything that aren't my indeterminate tomatoes. However, I do think some of my dahlias would benefit from taller cages, but I don't have any available. So they are going to get these 19-inch support cages. Any of like the decorative dahlias that are a little bit shorter, these work well with. It's just sometimes the dahlias I have get a little top heavy, but one of these goes in every grow bag. So now I'll show you the garage dahlias. I'm gonna get them planted first and then figure out how much space I have, go through all the other dahlia tubers that I have available and see what I want to fit in. So how I overwinter my dahlias, I do have a whole video that I'll link down below, but basically I keep them in the grow bag, so I have not dug up the tubers. I might at some point, if I need to divide them, there are probably some that I need to divide, but I just take the grow bag, I carry it downstairs to the garage, and I leave it there. And our garage does not go below 40 degrees. It is heated to at least 40 degrees, so I don't have to worry about the cold killing the dahlias. Every other year, if I tried to leave a dahlia outside, it did die, but I now have 4 coming back in my raised beds, so I still have no idea how that happened. But I do highly recommend, if you are in zone 6 or colder, that you do store your dahlia tubers somewhere inside, in a sheltered shed, in a garage, just somewhere out of the direct cold. Typically, what I do then is in about early April of the following season, I will carry the grow bags up, I will put them somewhere inside and wait for them to sprout. And because it's much warmer inside the house than in the garage, it kickstarts the process of them thinking that it's almost their season, so they will start to grow, and they're usually a pretty good size when I move them out here. However, because I started so many other dahlias inside, I really didn't have room, and I didn't want to carry any bags of dahlias up from the garage if they had died. So I waited until they sprouted downstairs, which took a lot longer because the garage takes longer to heat up than the inside of our home. So a lot of them are very small or just starting to poke through the soil. So I do expect these to be a little bit shorter than last year for a little bit longer period of time. But usually on my dahlias, I'll get blooms mid to late July, sometimes early July if I started them inside early enough. And then again, they'll bloom until the frost kills them. So let me show you the ones that I overwintered in the garage. I'll also put in images of them in my garden last year. We'll get them set up. I'll show you how I refresh the garage dahlias, and then we'll look for whatever other dahlias I'm going to add. These are my garage dahlias. I have 5 that I brought up. I actually have 2 more downstairs, but they haven't sprouted yet. And these really just started sprouting maybe in the last couple of weeks. So I'm still holding out on the 2 in the garage. And if they do start to sprout, I will bring them up here as well. But I do have 5 from last year, and you can see they all have their grow bags. The cages are in the grow bags, and they are sitting on their little platforms. These will be moved behind the couch after I refresh them, but I need to look at the tags and remember which ones they are. Since I'm going for more of like pastel colors back here, some of these I might move to the front deck, but I need to figure out which ones they are first. So let's see if I can read anything on the wooden tags that are starting to break down. But this one was Fairway Spur, which was an orange color. And then I had 2 of each variety, I believe, in the border behind me. So one Fairway Spur, one Thomas Edison, which is a deep purple. So that one I might move to the front because it is not pastel at all. And then, are you labeled? Oh no. Okay, well that one I'm gonna have to guess. Then I have another Thomas Edison, so 2 of the dark purple, and then a lilac thyme, which is a pastel purple lilac color. So I know I have an orange, 2 deep purples, 1 light purple, and is there really not a tag in here? No, there is not. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you how I refresh these, and then I will get them in place, again, potentially moving the Thomas Edison somewhere else, and then we'll get additional dahlias planted up. I'm going to refresh the mystery dahlia first, and I did realize, since I know which 2 are the Thomas Edison, everything else was pretty much a pastel color, so this is either going to be a pink, an orange, or a light purple, so I am confident that I can keep it here on the back border. I do the same thing I do with all my other perennials, my raspberries, any shrubs that I might have, where I add in some granular fertilizer, and then I top it with some either fresh potting soil or fresh compost. What I have in here is a mix of fresh potting soil and a mix of compost, so I have both of these in here together. I don't pile it up too high because the plant is starting to grow and I don't want to bury it, but before I bring them down, I do scrape off a top layer of soil just because I've had little flies lay their eggs in it and then had them hatch when I brought them inside to pre-sprout. So I do take off some before I bring them down in the fall, and I just want to add back in some nutrients as they are starting to grow again. So first, I'm going to do bulb tone, which works really well for dahlias, and the instructions on here are 1.5 heaping teaspoons around each plant and keep it 2 to 3 inches away from the bulb stem. First, I'm adding in the bulb tone, again keeping it a couple inches away from the stem of the dahlia. And then I'm just going to lightly rake that in with my fingers. So this is, again, a slow release fertilizer. I do apply a liquid fertilizer, which is taken up quickly by the plant throughout the season. For my dahlias, it's maybe once a month, I would say, whereas some of my annuals, I'm doing it every other week. So now that that's in there, I'm going to add in the mix of the compost and the potting soil. I also might look into, because I don't typically use mulch, or what you would say traditionally as mulch. I know some people mulch with compost, and that's kind of what I do in my garden, but I actually might get some because these are in grow bags and they do dry out faster than other types of containers. I might look to add that as these get a little bit larger. All right, I think that looks good. So 1 dahlia down, 4 more of the garage dahlias to go. Okay, I'm done refreshing the ones from the garage. I'm going to show you where I'm going to put them, get the 3 pastel colors in place, and then we will plant up some more of the dahlias I started this spring. I've laid out the 3 plant lifts where the first 3 dahlias are going to go. A few things I want to mention. They are going to eventually be right up against the wall, but because the dahlias are much smaller right now, I want to make sure they're getting the sun on them, so you can see the line where the shade from the wall turns into the sun. Once they are large enough that they get the sun, even up against the brick wall, I'll just scooch them back. Also, there will be irrigation, which you can see tangled right here that I need to untangle, and once I have everything set up, that's when I set up my irrigation and test it and turn it on for the season. Well, I actually went ahead and put all 5 here. I do love the Thomas Edison. They are a deep purple, so I'll put in an image of them again here and let me know if you think I should not include it on what's supposed to be my pastel deck. That is one of my problems every year in the garden, where I'm like, this deck is going to follow this color scheme. And then I find a plant that I just want to add that's not in the color scheme, and then another plant, and then another plant, and then there is no more color scheme. So let me know if you think I should put the Thomas Edison dahlias here, or I can just move them to the front deck. But I really liked them in the border last year. I have 2 other varieties of pastel dahlias that I started this season. So when I start my dahlias that I just got either through the mail or at Gethsemane, I do plant them inside in April. Again, let them pre-sprout and then move them outside once it's finally warm enough, which really, again, has just been in the last week. So this one here is Café de Paris. I have one of these I'm going to add to the dahlia border, and this one will get between 4 and 5 feet tall. The other variety I have, which I think I'm the most excited for, is Pink Pearl. And I actually do have 2 tubers that I started in here, so I'm going to plant each of those in their own grow bag. These will get to 40 inches tall. Now, these are not going to go in the dahlia border. Every season in my back border, which is in front of the church, I put a dahlia in between each of the raised beds, so 2 dahlias total, and it just adds to the border and makes it continue on. But they get planted up the exact same way. Grow bag, plant lift, and a cage. Now the 2 dahlias that I still have in the garage that I'm waiting to see if they sprout, those are definitely a pastel color. So I can 100% add them to this border. So I think having, what do I have, 5 now, 2 more downstairs, 1 here. I think 8 will be a good amount for that border. Again, assuming I leave the Thomas Edison dahlias there. And then I'll have the 2 in that border here. And I think that'll be all of the dahlias that I have on this deck. So I'm gonna go ahead, I have my empty grow bags. I'm gonna fill them up with this mix here. I will add in some of the slow release fertilizer, and then we'll get everything in place. This is where I bring in my pot that I use as a shovel to get these filled faster. I could use just a regular trowel, but it doesn't hold as much as this does. I did, however, order a trowel because advertising got to me. I think it's from Gardenair, and it's supposed to be perfect for containers, and it has a serrated edge, which means if I have a bag of potting soil that I can't easily tear open, I can use that, or I can cut plants with it. I don't know. I'm gonna see how it is and if I think it's worth it once it gets here. We'll do the Café de Paris first, and I'm just going to gently move it out of that nursery container. The bag is about a little over halfway full right now. I'm sprinkling in some of the biotone, and I'm just filling it up to the same level where the soil was in the nursery container. I'm not filling it any less or any higher. Then I'm going to put in the cage. Now, because these dahlias are smaller, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to accidentally poke through one with the bottom of the cage, but I do still go gently, especially if I'm putting the cage in on a dahlia I've had longer, just so I don't pierce any of the tubers. So if I feel a little bit of resistance, then I'll stop and reposition. But this one is good to go. I use grow bags for dahlias because, well, one, they're the lightest weight, so it makes it really easy to carry down to the garage. I don't really have to carry many other plants down, so any that need to either go down or up the stairs on an annual basis, I plant in the lightest containers possible. Also, I've had issues in the past with the tubers rotting because the soil stayed too wet in a plastic pot, so that's also why I switched. But you might not have that issue if you are in a drier climate than I am. All right, 2 tubers are in here. One is much larger than the other, so I'm just going to, delicately as possible, separate them. Place this one in this grow bag, sprinkle in the biotone, and top it off. Gently add the cage, and again, this one's going in a different border than the dahlia border. All the dahlias are now planted. These are the 2 that are going to go in this back border, but they're going to get tucked behind this peony. And since right now the peony is much taller than the dahlia, I'm leaving them out in front, again, so they can get as much sun as possible. And once they are probably about maybe 6 to 8 inches tall, I'll move them into the border. That's the good thing about containers, is you can move them anywhere you want. And then I have back here 6 so far, and we'll see if the other 2 in the garage start to sprout. The dahlia border is all planted, and I'm so excited now. All I have to do is wait. And I do still have to do a few other things. Again, check on the 2 dahlias that are in the garage, see if I can add them to the border, move the 2 dahlias that are going to go in the back border over once they get a little bit taller, and then I will shift everything back against the wall and set up my irrigation. Hopefully sometime soon. So let me know if you have any questions. I can't wait to see these when they start to bloom, and I am going to wonder if I'll miss having zinnias in the mix or if I will love just a wall of dahlias. Also, let me know about the Thomas Edison and if I should keep that there. And that's it. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.